my 50 minutes of discussion, and I'm open for any questions you might have.
Okay, thanks, Manuel. Before I read the questions from the chat, I um, I think Ken, I muted your mic, so please unmute yourself if you want to talk. I cannot unmute you from here. So we have two questions from the chat box, and the first question is how long or what's the difference between the shelf life of different type of synthetic oils? So can you comment on that, please?
Yes. You know, that's a very good question, and the short answer would be it depends. Check with your product manufacturer to make sure, but most of the oils that that are mineral grade out to synthetic, I said what, 5 to 10 years with a shelf life, if I remember correctly. But once again, that depends on the product, and my opinion is that it's not relative to the base oil that's being used, whether it's a PAO or a Group 3 or mineral grade, Group 1. I want to say that it's more driven behind the ad packs that are being used. So short answer is not a big difference, but, you know, synthetics last a long time. If you keep them cool, clean, and dry, I've had synthetics in systems for 12, 15 years with no problems and no top-ups. I doubt that a mineral grade oil will last that long. So having said that, I know it's tap dancing around a direct answer. It really depends on the product. Depends on, you know, what the family of product is, and it also depends on the application.
Okay, so at the end of the shelf life of a product in a warehouse, Manny, do you recommend like oil sampling and testing, or just discard it because the shelf life is over? Because some of these products are very expensive, right?
Yeah, some of them are very expensive. I have, you're exactly right. That's a great question, because just because on paper it's made its shelf life number does not mean that the product is out of shelf life. And in that case, really it's the ad pack dropping out of solution. So I have taken samples of product right out of a brand new drum that's been sitting there past its shelf life and sent it into the lab for analysis. If everything comes back good, use it.
Okay.
By all means, use it. So these numbers are just, and you know, oil companies are very conservative with these values as well. So, you know, it's just a rule of thumb. By all means, a great idea is, you know, if you got a $4,000 drum of synthetic oil, you're not going to throw it out because the oil manufacturer says it's supposed to last 10 years and you're on year 11. By all means, I would definitely recommend getting it analyzed. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I got some more questions, so I go fast. What about the antifreeze, like engine coolants and stuff? Do you consider any shelf life for them? And if yes, what's the time?
I don't have much to offer on antifreeze. Although we do sell a RecoChem product, we would have to go back to them. Off the top of my head, I would not know antifreeze shelf lives. I'm sorry.
Okay. Another question is, when you talked about different shelf life of different products, the question came up that why high additive oil has more life in storage. I think the question is why, when it's highly additized, you see more shelf life in the storage other than just pure base oils or low additized product.
I'm not sure that's 100% correct. I think the short answer is it would be, you'd have to look at it case by case. I don't know if there's a rule of thumb that highly additized oils last longer or not. I think it would have to be a case by case, and family of products and ad packs that are in it are definitely gonna drive shelf life for sure.
Okay. So the next question is, what is reference of shelf life of products? Please share. So I don't know what's the question, but
what is the reference? Yeah, those numbers I put up there for the greases and for the oils are just strictly rule of thumb. I mean, and I always stipulate at the bottom, check with your supplier, your manufacturer for a more definitive answer. There could be products that are shelf life is 2 years, and we're saying 5 to 10 because they're an oil. So having said that, always check with your oil manufacturer. Once you get to the 3 to 5 year stage, and things depending on who manufactures these oils, if they're not staying in solution, they're going to be falling out of shelf life. So ad packs need to stay in solution. That's key. I'm going to assume that a high quality manufacturer like Petro-Canada's products will probably last longer than a compound blenders. That to me just kind of makes sense because the compound blenders quality control isn't as tight as you would have from a major oil company.
Okay. So the next question is there any solution to avoid oil separation in grease during storage? Do you want to comment on that?
Say that again, Bashad?
Well, is there any solution to avoid oil separation in grease during storage? So technically you keep the grease drum, you see a little bit of oil on the top when you open the drum. So
I see. Yeah, here's an interesting, and it's going to sound funny, but if an oil is not separating from a thickener, it's not working correctly. I have had people take the lid off of a keg and say, Mr. Garcia, there's 2 inches, 3 inches of oil on top of my my grease. What, it's bad. No, it's not bad. I have had people take a clean broomstick or a clean 2x2 piece of wood, and I have had people mix that oil right back into the thickener, and it worked beautifully. And a grease is designed to, the soap thickener carries that oil. When it's going under work, the oil gets separated from the thickener and it's being used. So the lubricant in a bearing is not the thickener. The thickener is just the driver that carries that oil there. The oil does the work. When the work stops, the oil gets sucked right back into the thickener, and that's how it works. So, yeah, it's normal to see 2-3 inches of oil on top of your grease. It's very, very normal. It can easily be put right back in by a very simple stirring method. I know it sounds antiquated and crude, but it has worked my 30 years, definitely.
Perfect. Okay, so going to the next question is, Manny, do you have data on example of money saved or failure rate improvements by practicing, this warehousing, better practice for warehousing and shipping and handling? Do you have any data?
Yes, I do have data. Plant Engineering Magazine back in the late 80s, early 90s said that you will save 15% of your, this is true data, 15% of your maintenance dollars if you implement a solid, color-coded, and tagged lube storage facility in-house. So, say for example, you're spending your lube costs, your maintenance costs $1 million. You immediately take $150,000 and you save that money by implementing a proper program, storage and handling program. And in many cases, your storage and handling equipment don't even cost you that much. So there is data. Plant Engineering Magazine put that out, and I have actually written in my studies with customers, I have written that same exact number. And you know what? When you're talking about a plant that uses 10 million, if for their maintenance budget, when you present them with 15%, it's unbelievable. I have presented customers 5% savings just by paying attention to this topic. They've accepted it, and anywhere from 5 to 15% is a number that I have personally used to document savings by putting money into a good, solid storage and handling program like what we talked about today.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. So the last question that I have on the chat is, Manny, does PC, Petro-Canada, has recommended ISO particle codes for a specific equipment?
We go by the filtration company's ISO cleanliness numbers, and there's on the screen. You see my email. If somebody wants to send me that question, I can get you what we typically use, and so we go by the OEM and the filtration companies get together, and they come up with what's a cleanliness code for gears, right? So gears is going to be a little bit sloppier than a hydraulic system with servo valves. So your cleanliness code is going to be really, really tight for hydraulic systems and not so tight for gears. But there are some numbers I can pass along. Absolutely, yes. But we don't publish them. We work with what's out there in the industry.
Okay. Okay, so these were all the questions that I had on the chat box. So anybody else who has a question and wants to unmute and ask in the couple of minutes that we left till we start with Brian. Yes, go ahead, please.
I have a question. Actually, my question was related to a minimum filtration rating that is required for certain lubricants to make sure that we're not removing additives, because we're getting this question all the time. We're selling filters, and sometimes people are setting very, very low ISO codes level, which means high cleanliness level. And for those,